The hardest truth is the one we refuse to acknowledge. You crossed a line, and now that truth is staring you in the face, demanding to be dealt with. You thought you could escape the consequences, but the truth has a way of catching up. Now, you have to face the reality of what you've done. Crossing that line was a mistake you can't undo. Now the truth is here to remind you of the cost you never expected to pay. There's a moment when all the warnings in the world can't stop you. But now that you've crossed that line, the truth is unavoidable, and there's no denying it anymore. When you cross a line, you don't just face the consequences of your actions. You face the truth of who you've become in the process. It's time to face that truth. I warned you not to cross that line, but now that you have, it's time to come to terms with the truth of your choices. This is the reality you must live with. You wanted to take that step, to cross that line, and now you're standing in the truth of it. There's no turning back from what's happened. Crossing the line was only the beginning. Now you have to face the truth of what that choice means for your future, and it's not something you can ignore. I told you not to cross that line, but you did. Now, as the truth settles in, you realize just how much it has changed everything. Sometimes, crossing a line feels like the only choice. But once the truth comes to light, you realize how much you've lost by not heeding the warnings. It's easy to ignore the truth when you're standing on the other side of the line. But now that you've crossed it, the truth has a way of making itself known. I warned you that crossing that line would come with consequence, and now the truth is here to prove just how real those consequences are. The moment you cross that line, you set in motion a series of events that would eventually lead to the truth. Now, it's time to face what you've started. I tried to protect you from this moment, but now that you've crossed the line, you're forced to confront the truth of your actions. The truth never stays hidden for long, especially when you've crossed a line you shouldn't have. Now it's time for you to face the consequences of your choices. You may have thought crossing that line would give you freedom, but now that the truth is here, you realize it's only trapped you in a reality you didn't want. Crossing that line was the beginning of the end, and now the truth has finally caught up to you. There's no escaping it now. When you cross a line, you enter a new reality, one where the truth is unavoidable. It's time to stop running and face what you've done. You were warned, yet you chose to cross that line. Now, the truth is here, and there's no escaping the consequences of that choice. It's never easy to face the truth, especially when you know it's tied to a mistake you made. But now that the line has been crossed, you must come to terms with what's happened. You thought you could avoid the truth, but crossing that line made sure you couldn't. Now you have to face what's in front of you, no matter how difficult it may be. The truth doesn't care about excuses. Once you've crossed that line, you're left with nothing but the reality of what you've done. It's easy to dismiss warnings until the truth catches up with you. Now that you've crossed that line, the truth is here to remind you of the price you'll pay. There's a weight to the truth that grows heavier with every step you take away from it. You crossed a line, and now that weight is pulling you back to face it. I warned you that crossing that line would lead to regret, and now the truth is showing you just how deep that regret runs. The truth always has a way of revealing itself, no matter how much we try to hide from it. You crossed a line, and now the truth is clear and unavoidable. There's no going back once the line is crossed. Now you must face the truth of the path you chose and the consequences that come with it. Crossing that line seemed so small at first, but now the truth has expanded it into something far greater than you ever imagined. Once you've crossed a line, you can't simply wish the truth away. Now, you have to confront it, no matter how painful it may be. The line you crossed wasn't just a boundary, it was a choice. Now, as the truth comes into focus, you see exactly what that choice has cost you. I warned you that crossing that line would bring you face to face with the truth. Now, the truth is here, and you have no choice but to accept it. You wanted to test the boundaries, and now the truth is here to show you the real consequences of crossing them. You crossed the line, thinking you could handle whatever came next. But now, as the truth unfolds, you realize just how little you truly understood about the consequences. I warned you that there would be consequences if you crossed that line, but you didn't listen. Now the truth is here, staring you in the face, and there's no way to avoid it anymore. You have to face what you've done and the reality of what it's cost you. Every action has its repercussions. You thought I was bluffing when I said you'd regret crossing that line. Now, as the truth unfolds before you, you realize just how much it's going to cost you. The truth doesn't care about your excuses, your justifications, or your denial. You crossed a line, and now it's time to face the consequences. The truth is never as forgiving as you hope. When I warned you not to cross the line, I wasn't just protecting myself. I was trying to protect you from the fallout of your own actions. Now, as the truth unravels, you see exactly what I meant. I told you that some lines once crossed can never be uncrossed. Now, you stand on the other side, looking back at the consequences that will follow you for a long time. It's too late to pretend that the line you crossed it doesn't exist. The truth has a way of making everything clear, no matter how much you try to hide from it. Now, you must face it head on. I warned you because I knew the consequences of crossing that line. Now that you've done it, the truth is unavoidable, and the weight of your actions will catch up with you sooner than you think. Crossing the line seemed like a small step in the moment, but now that you've done it, you see how much it's changed everything. The truth is here, and there's no going back. Sometimes you need a warning to help you avoid disaster. You chose to ignore it, and now the truth has come to collect what was always meant to be paid. I tried to spare you the pain of this moment, but now that the line has been crossed, it's time to face the truth of what you've done. You can't run from this reality anymore. There's always a price to pay for crossing boundaries. I warned you, but now you must stand in the consequences of your choices and face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is. The truth is harsh, especially when you've spent so much time avoiding it. But now, having crossed that line, the truth is unavoidable. You'll have to confront it, whether you like it or not. You thought you could get away with it, that nothing would change. But now that the truth is here, you realize that crossing the line has altered everything, and there's no hiding from what's to come. Crossing a line is easy when you don't consider the fallout, but now that you've crossed it, the truth is here to remind you of the consequences. There's no escape from this reality. I warned you that once you crossed that line, things would never be the same. Now you're standing in the truth of what that really means. The line you crossed wasn't just a physical boundary. It was emotional, psychological, and spiritual. Now that you're on the other side, the truth of that choice is clearer than ever. We all have a breaking point, a line we know we shouldn't cross. You crossed yours, and now the truth is here to expose the damage. It's time to face the consequences. You crossed a line that you knew was dangerous, and now the truth is here to remind you that actions have irreversible consequences. There's no running from it now. When you ignore warnings, you face the truth in the hardest way possible. The line you crossed was a point of no return, and now it's time to see the reality of that decision. You may have thought crossing that line would be harmless, but now the truth is clear, and you must live with the aftermath of your choices. I warned you that crossing that line would lead to this moment, and now the truth is unfolding before you, revealing the weight of everything you tried to avoid. Sometimes we ignore the warning signs, thinking we can handle the consequences. But once that line is crossed, the truth has a way of catching up with you. The consequences of crossing that line are more than just personal. They affect everything around you. Now that the truth is here, you have to face what you've done and the impact it's had. It's easy to ignore the warnings until the truth comes crashing down. Now that you've crossed the line, you're left to confront the reality of your actions. I told you that crossing that line would change everything, and now, as the truth rises, you realize just how true those words were. The truth is a mirror that reflects everything we try to hide. You crossed a line, and now you have to face the truth of what that means for you and for everyone else involved. Crossing that line felt empowering at first, but now, with the truth in front of you, you see that the power was only temporary, and the consequences will last far longer.